coming to the League of Women Voters candidate forum for mayor and alderman for Rolling Meadows. I'm Carolyn Roberts, and I'm here with Heidi Graham. We are both presidents of the two different chapters of the League of Women Voters, Arlington Heights and Palatine area, that are sponsoring this forum. The League was founded after 1920 out of the suffragette movement. It is a nonpartisan political organization. Now, that may sound like an oxymoron, but what it means is we sponsor things like candidates forums, but we do not support, recommend, or oppose any candidates. The League's purpose is to promote responsibility through informed and active participation of all citizens. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their communities and the candidates running for office. And we're pleased to offer this service. Our candidate forum chair is Vicki Martin, and she will take over from here.
All right, we'd also like to thank the Palatine Library for all of our help in promoting and organizing this. Rolling Meadows. I'm sorry, I'm a week ahead of myself. I have 5 forums to organize, so you have to just give me a break here. So yes, the Rolling Meadows Library, they have been absolutely fantastic to work with. We also have several high school volunteers. I don't know if they're in here. Raise your hand, high schoolers. Yay. That's the future. All right, our candidates have drawn numbers, and that will determine the speaking order. Our moderator will rotate the speaking order as each question is each question is asked. And that way, every candidate will have the opportunity to speak first on a particular topic. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening statements. Next, they will have 1 minute per question. Each candidate will answer the same question. So when you submit your questions to our volunteers who are walking around collecting cards with your questions on them, please ask questions that everyone can address, okay? And please keep your questions concise and civil. All of your questions will be vetted for clarity. I'm really getting brain dead, I think. Clarity, and also to prevent redundancy. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer those questions, and at the end they will have a 1 minute closing. League members will act as timers. They're here in the front row. Candidates will be given a 30-second and 15-minute warning, so please quickly compose your thoughts when you see the stop sign, because we will enforce times and we will require that you stop speaking. Candidates have also been asked not to interrupt one another, and the moderator will be happy to repeat a question if need be. Audience, please turn off all your electronic devices. This forum is being taped by the League of Women Voters and also by the library, and no candidate may use any portion of these recordings for campaign purposes. We'd also ask audience that you hold any and all applause until the very end. We're trying to keep this forum neutral and civil. So again, please do not interrupt our candidates when they speak, and do not in any way, shape, or form show support or non-support for any of our candidates. There's space outside the room to meet with the candidates after the forum begins, and there's campaign literature on the table outside. We also have literature regarding the League of Women Voters if anyone is interested. And we have here with us today people who are voter registrars. So if there's anyone in the room who needs to vote, please contact one of the League members. They're all wearing white shirts. So again, I'd like to introduce our moderator for the day, Ms. Jill Sagi, who is from the Roselle League of Women Voters.
Thank you, and thanks to the Palatine and the Rolling Meadows and the Arlington Heights League of Women Voters. I hope you'll support their fundraisers, attend their events, and even join the league so that they can continue to bring programs like this to your community. I need to read the disclaimer again that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports, opposes, nor recommends candidates for any office. The League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government. Members of the audience are encouraged and requested to write questions on the cards. If you'd like to put a card for an aldermanic candidate or mayoral candidate, please indicate so on the card. Volunteers and timers, as were said, will be sitting here and we'll 15 seconds. You have, everyone will answer the exact same questions. You have 1 minute to, so it's not to debate each other, it's to show your position on the question. So again, I'd like to request that you turn off the electronic devices. Your courteous decorum is greatly appreciated. The numbers were drawn and we are going to start our opening statements, which are 2 minutes. And this is for a 4-year term for your mayoral candidate in Rolling Meadows. And the order for the opening statements is going to be rotated. So we're going to start with Len Prana first.
Thank you, Rolling Meadows. I appreciate being, we're good. I appreciate you electing me mayor 2 years ago. It's the opportunity to move forward. For those of you who are not aware of who I am, I'm Len Prana, your presently your mayor. I am married to the lovely Patricia Prana. And for those of you that were here earlier, she did have a little bit of a tumble, but she has been checked out by paramedics and she is good to go because she said she wouldn't miss this for anything in the world. We have lived in Rolling Meadows for 35 years. Our first home was on Beacock Lane, backing up to Clem Park. And for those of you, when we first, back in the was it late 80s, 90s, Diamond Fest was our backyard, and we were very, very fortunate. We have 3 children, Melissa, Jen, and Jill, that have grown here. We have 4 grandchildren. This is the 4th generation of our family, or past family, that are growing up in Rolling Meadows. We've had the opportunity to have a great time in Rolling Meadows. For those of you that have, I look out, and some of you, I know I've coached in either basketball, softball, or soccer, and some of you were soccer moms and baked cookies when we were doing it back in the day. I've always been I guess you would call it boots on the ground involvement in the city, whether it's being involved in the sports or else being involved with the activities. I just wanted to give you a little background, but some of the things that I feel important as we go forward is I believe that we need to go and look at having term limits for aldermen to match that of the mayor at 2 terms. And I also believe that in the future, any bond ratings, or any bonds that go out for sale, the citizens of Rolling Meadows should vote on. They should have their choice on the purse strings. Thank you.
Thank you. John Estes will be next. 2 minutes.
My name is John Estes, and I believe in lower fees, lower property tax levy increases, and more non-tax revenue, and a vision for the city of Rolling Meadows. My vision is to build Rolling Meadows by crafting more economic development opportunities throughout the city. This model creates excitement in the community, and is a source of non-tax revenue which will help stabilize future property tax increases. 2 of my key objectives as mayor will be to introduce a senior property tax freeze so our seniors no longer have to worry about being taxed out of their homes. I hope to have this legislation passed this year and to take effect next year. I also support a 4-year freeze on increases in water, sewer, and stormwater fees starting in 2020. I introduced a restaurant incentive to bring new businesses into the city, and I just recently introduced open land, empty office building incentives, which is a tool the city can use to fill open spaces and repurpose empty office buildings. In 35 years in business management, I've put together teams of people and worked to create consensus among the team. The city council is a team that needs a leader who can create consensus and move the city forward. The team approach has always been better than the individual approach of all about me. 4 years ago, I proposed the city take the lead in the northwest suburbs and improve video gaming. Now that it's approved, we've got 2 new restaurants in the city. We've got a list of 7 to 15 in the pipeline and are anticipating $125,000 in revenue this year. Less fees, lower property tax increases, more non-tax revenue, and a vision for the future of Rolling Meadows is what I plan to accomplish when I'm elected mayor on April 2nd. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Dave Whitney for 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to express both my concerns and my aspirations for my hometown of over 40 years. By now, I hope my biography and long-term history of community dedication is known to all, but if you don't, you can visit my website or my campaign flyers. My community service is extensive, including my current role as Vice Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. In addition to my city committees, I have attended and spoken at many city council meetings. Over the last 2 years, I have been appalled by by the level of discourse, petty arguments, and grandstanding that flourished during the city council meetings. My goal as mayor is to use my career in community management experience to lead the council to function as a team and demonstrate respect each member deserves, resulting in better government for our residents. Our city faces financial and other challenges. Nearly every change in the city triggers both challenges and opportunities. As Vice Chair of the city's Planning and Zoning Commission, I have worked with other members of the commission to develop the plan which should lead Rolling Meadows into the future. I have a plan to lead our economic development efforts to become both data-driven and aggressive in our efforts to attract more investment, leading in turn to more jobs and more revenue. I've listened to businesses and residents' concerns to find subject matter, I've listened to businesses and residents' concerns on permit inspection issues and have ideas on how to improve the process. I have plans to strengthen the Economic Development Committee and Chamber of Commerce, and all board openings will be recruited heavily to find subject matter experts and improve diversity. I'm excited about earning your support for mayor. We will get someone who truly cares about the city, the people, and always have a positive and respectful attitude. I also have the skill set to lead the city into the future.
Sorry, we need to go to Joe Gallo now for 2 minutes on his opening statement.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. First, I'd like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for allowing us the opportunity to present ourselves before you. I would also like to thank you for coming out on this blustery Sunday afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joe Gallo. I'm currently the 4th Ward Alderman. I joined the council 2 years ago because I recognized that Rolling Meadows needed to be more inclusive of the residents' opinions. Since then, I have fought tirelessly for the residents' voice to be acknowledged within decisions that the City Council faces and makes. I'm a father of young children, so I understand what the city needs to attract new families. I also understand what current families need to be satisfied and comfortable. Notably, with aging parents that have lived in this community, I know what it's going to take to keep those families who established so many memories in Rolling Meadows to retire here and continue that legacy. As your mayor, I can offer the leadership necessary that will renew Rolling Meadows. It will restore the voices of the residents, and it will make sure that our city works creatively at new and innovative opportunities to redistribute the imbalanced tax burdens that are placed on all of us as residents. I'm a 38-year lifelong resident of Rolling Meadows, but I'm also a product of Rolling Meadows. I've lived on the same street that my parents raised me on. My children now learn to ride their bikes on the same street that my neighbors watched me ride bikes on. So as far as Rolling Meadows is concerned, I want to take Rolling Meadows to a place where my children can experience that with their children as well. So I'm just excited to hear what thoughts and concerns you all have today for us forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to open with our first question. Each candidate is going to get the exact same question, and please give us your take on what your plans are based on the question. And we're going to start, John Diastis will answer first, and we'll rotate from there. And the question is, an article in the paper in April of last year saying that Rolling Meadows has the highest combined property tax and municipal cost burden. Why, and what will you do to reduce this burden? 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with that article, but as I previously stated, I believe that my vision for the future is to build the city using economic development. Economic development comes in all fashions. It can be billboards that generate revenue for the city. It can be new restaurants. It can be new commercial. I think all of those areas will help to reduce our future property tax levy increases. I also believe in a 4-year freeze on the water, sewer, and stormwater that everybody has been paying quite a bit on. So with that said, I plan to help reduce the fees and property tax increases as best we can through the use of economic development moving ahead.
Great. Dave Whitney, same question. 1 minute.
Thank you. The property taxes are out of control, and it's not just the city of Rolling Meadows. It's the school districts, it's the county, it's everybody. The first thing that I would do is take a look at working with the other governing bodies and see if we can find some economies of scale. One of the main focuses has to be on pension reform, and you can't do that by yourself. Pension reform is definitely necessary. We're only 38% funded right now, so it's critical that we improve that. Number 2 is that I plan on improving economic development, working with the Economic Development Committee to strengthen the membership, working with the Chamber of Commerce in order to get the Chamber more actively involved in things in a little stronger position. Thank you.
Great. Joel Gallo.
So as a member of the Chamber of Commerce and a board member on the Chamber of Commerce, I firmly believe that it is vital that our Chamber of Commerce be included in the opportunities to develop creative ways of bringing in new business. I've helped establish, along with the 21st Century Institute, opportunities for foreign governments to bring over business opportunities between academics, healthcare, technology. And so bringing these creative means of addressing the burden that comes to our community is something that I work with the Chamber of Commerce on and help through technology advancements.
Okay. And the last person to answer this question is Len.
Thank you. I was told by the folks in the back that I better stand up because I'm such a small guy, they can't see me. You know, I'm familiar with that article. It did have some inaccuracies in it, but one of the things that we have been working on in the last year is, many of you may remember the Golden Corridor along Gulf Road. We do have a new building, school supply that's going up there. A.J. Gallagher just came to us. They are building. I am the liquor commissioner and also the gaming commissioner, and I can tell you that there are 12 new restaurants on the way in the city of Rolling Meadows this year. And we've done that by crafting things with video gaming and having restaurants come in that are willing to bring a grill and a hood so that you have more opportunities, but we also have to make us a draw. In other words, it's nice for us to spend our money, but we need to also have residents from surrounding areas, Arlington Heights, Schaumburg, and Palatine, come to Rolling Meadows and make us a destination location because their money will help with our taxes.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the second question. And Dave Whitney will answer first. And the question is, if elected, how do you intend to get all the aldermen to work together? For the past 20 years, we seem to have two sides fighting against each other. 1 minute.
Thank you. First of all, my background is business management, and I've spent the last 40-plus years managing and building teams. With a team, you have to set expectations, and you have to be able to enforce that those expectations be met. There's 3 stages to forming a team. There's the forming stage, the storming stage, and the norming stage. The council has been stuck in the storming stage for quite a while. In order to get there, you have to improve the communication. You have to make sure everybody is heard. No idea is a bad idea. And you've got to show respect for one another. If you're not communicating with each other, nothing is going to get accomplished. And in order to get things accomplished as a city council, you have to be a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
So as a current alderman, I've recognized some of the challenges that we faced in terms of communication. And I think at this point, there is a critical opportunity for an entire new set of dynamics for our council to begin with. And once we have a change in aldermen, their roles and responsibilities will change in terms of perspective on whose opinion is relevant, and that being the community's and the residents' opinion is relevant. Once we're aligned with the goal of having the residents served, then it makes the conversation of direction that much easier when we need to focus on the subject and path forward. If we get the change that I'm expecting us to get now that the residents are more engaged over the past 2 years of my request to get their opinions heard, voiced, and listened to, that we can go ahead and have a group of people that are willing to listen and serve for the group of the collective.
Thank you. Lynn?
Thank you. One thing that everyone has to realize when you come to the council is that there are 7 wards, and you're each elected to represent your ward with the intent of working with the city, with working with the other wards to go forward. Since I've been on the council, the things that you have seen me come forward, when Alderman Tim Beanboss was with us, he had an expertise in the business community. We were in the running for Caterpillar. Tim Beanboss, through his contacts, was able to get a phone conversation and a meeting with Caterpillar. We came in number 2, but at least we were trying. Jerry Hill, who many of you knew was very involved in the community, he was my finance person. He knew about bonds and things that went along those lines, so I reached out to them. Recently, you've read about the newspaper and the fact that I've asked Dave Whitney and Alderman Budmatz on a committee to bring the post office back to Rolling Meadows, and we did have that opportunity to meet with them. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
In 35 years of business management, I've put together many teams and worked with the teams to create consensus. The city council is a team as well. And as Len said, each council member represents their ward to the best of their ability. As mayor, it's contingent on me to try to bring all the wards together. Not every ward, not every individual is going to be looking for the same thing. Different wards have different things, but as the mayor, my job is to bring everybody together, create a team, create consensus, and not have individuals running off on their own trying to do things by themselves. It's a team effort, and we all work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to the next question. I'm going to go with the one that I had on top of the pile. I'm going to put those underneath. What services or projects are being cut or postponed to keep the current tax levy under 3%? And how will you ensure that it will not be a 6 to 8% levy the next time around? And we're going to start with Joe.
This is an interesting question for 60 seconds of time. I think it's important that we recognize that almost half of our annual budget is being allocated to 2 capital projects, which are the fire stations in Rolling Meadows. And knowing that, you can identify how many other opportunities we're missing out in terms of infrastructure improvement to our roads, areas that we can improve for our parks and rec, opportunities to change the way that we work with our services. And it's important that we go ahead and focus on realigning that which we want to accomplish after these two major expenses are completed.
Okay, thank you. And now we're going to go to Len.
Thank you. Yes, we did have the opportunity to lower taxes from 4.7 to 2.7, and there are things that have been in the pipeline for a while and will continue with. We have an ERP program, in other words, our community development program, which has been a challenge for a number of years. We need to make it easier and to be able to draw more businesses here. The other part of it is that with the businesses that are coming in here, as I said earlier, every week I meet with more businesses, and the more people that we get to come here, which is the key. Now, 5 years ago, if you went around, people would say, what a boring city. Well, if you're around now, we have opportunities for events in the parks. We also have opportunities like National Night Out. We also have other things. That draws residents to the city, and it also gives us a positive light with businesses. And the more businesses that come in here, it's the more tax revenue that goes into the city. Thank you.
John?
Thank you. To answer the question, there are no services or projects that are being postponed. We have a balanced budget, and for the last 10 years, the council worked to create fund balance policies so that we have between 3 and 6 months funding in many of our funds, so that if there was a downturn in the economy, we'd have enough funds to take care of it. There's nothing being stopped. Our future our future bond payment is $2 million. In 2017 and prior, it was $3 million. Our future bond payment goes down $1 million starting next year. Nothing is being lost, nothing is being postponed.
Thank you. Dave, 1 minute.
Thank you. What I think is missing is, not necessarily missing, but it's something that really needs to be paid more attention to, and that's our roadways. We've limited the funds we put into roads every year, and that is something as probably everybody looks around the room here. There's potholes on the side streets, there's side streets that need to be rebuilt. So there needs to be more funding towards the roadways. I mentioned earlier, there also needs to be more funding towards the pension. What I would like to see is a little bit more council input to what the budget will be ahead of time. Staff usually comes back to the city council and kind of dictates what the budget is. I would like to have more input into what that percentage increase would be. Thank you.
Great. Okay, our next question, we're going to start with Len again this time. A common complaint is that residents don't have a voice. How do you plan on handling this issue, and how do you plan to make yourself accessible to residents?
Well, thank you. I feel that my boots on the ground approach works. I've had conversations weekly between emails, and plus the fact is if there's an event in Raleigh Meadows, I'm there speaking with residents. I do have the opportunity to meet with coffees at coffee shops that I work with in the community. I also have the opportunity when I visit churches and other groups. If any of you are seniors, there's another bagels and coffee with the mayor happening. I'm not sure whether they come for the coffee or the bagels, or they just come to talk to the mayor. But I always try to outreach to be there. And again, that's the key, is you can sit behind a committee or you can be on a commission, but it's being out in the community every day, listening to what you have to say, whether it's in the Jewel or whether it's having coffee at the local Dunkin' Donuts or the Red Apple.
Thank you. John?
Thank you. I believe that residents have a loud voice in this community. Having been an alderman and on the council for many years, my phone number is out there and anybody can call me at any time. I have an email address. Anyone can email me at any time for anything. I always get back to everybody within 24 hours, one way or another. I try to work with the residents, and I have worked with all the residents in my ward. I've listened to what they have to say. I'm opinionated. I will listen to your opinion, and I will give you mine. And at times we will agree to disagree because we don't. However, if most of the residents that I speak with have an opinion that's differing than me, my obligation is to be their voice on the city council, and I will vote for what they want. I always vote for what the majority of the residents want. Thank you.
Hey, Dave.
Well, first of all, most people don't know me as somebody that's part of the city government. They see me out at all the community events. I'm constantly out there working and trying to make the events better. I do a lot of other work in the city, chairing Crime Stoppers, and I'm very active in the senior community as well. One thing I would propose is having an annual town hall meeting where the residents would be allowed to come in and voice their opinions. I'm very active on Facebook right now, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It would have to be a controlled Facebook environment. My email is published out there for anybody that wants to listen. But electronic communication is key, and that's what's growing with all the younger people, and that will help us keep informed. Thank you.
Hey, Joel.
So I'm not the greatest at tooting my own horn, but the past 2 years, I have spent my entire time on the council connecting with residents in my ward and beyond my ward, because a lot of the issues were not just a ward issue, but a community issue. And it wasn't me reaching out to those residents in wards beyond mine, it was them reaching out to me. And the reason they reached out to me was because I was approachable and because I got solutions developed quickly to address the problem or issue that they were facing. I think one thing anyone here can do if you've known me or interacted with me is share that sentiment with those of your neighbors, and I think they'll agree. What I like to do on social media is communicate and connect. My phone number has been publicly and readily available. I go ahead and continue to meet at local events, and I also host ward events right here in this room, as a matter of fact, for local ward reports and town halls.
Okay, great. We're on to our next question, and John is going to answer first for this one. And the question is, what is your stance on privatization of city services?
That's a interesting question. The city has looked at privatization for many years, and it's not always the best. I was involved with the study on garbage, and that was about a 1-year process. And the results of that process showed that privatization could have been a little less expensive. But the residents said, we like the services the guys are providing us now. We're willing to pay a little bit more to keep our garbage service. And I feel that's very similar to fire and police. Those services may be able to be privatized, but will we have the same control? Will we have the same results? I think for the time being, I'd like to keep all of our services in-house. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, 1 minute, please.
You're not going to find anything different from me there. The city did look at privatization before, and the residents were strongly against it. Maybe because they didn't have Mercedes-Benz garbage trucks, but that being said, there is some economies that might be derived from it, but I think the loss of the service, the snow plowing, where they actually will plow the end of your driveway if they put too much snow there, the picking up the extra garbage would disappear. So I'm not in favor at this point of privatization. If another study is done, it would really have to be cost justifiable to me to support it.
So after looking at some invoices from our public works, and the amount of outsourcing that we do on a regular basis. We do maintain a lot of internal projects, but I also know that Public Works has 42 full-time employees, and of which 7 of them live in Rolling Meadows. That's 16% of employees that also serve Rolling Meadows as residents. If we were to look at privatizing a greater majority of our services and not remove that 7% that are employed and live in Rolling Meadows, we could give them an opportunity to give them greater training, greater responsibility, and then look at taking this to a competitive market to go ahead and making sure that we get a service for a cost that we can agree with as residents that doesn't impact our pensions or budgets, and also gives us an opportunity to be competitive to the point where we can go ahead and look at holding other vendors accountable for quality issues that we can take elsewhere if we need to.
Okay, Len?
Thank you. Actually, that is something that we have been working on. I mentioned the ERP project, which is a computerized system that should make our invoicing and when you come to City Hall easier. This year we did also combine Public Works and Community Development into one department. We should have some economy of scale on there. We also, because of the amount of construction that is going on in the city, we do outsource some of the plan review and at times outsource the inspectors that we use. So it's not privatizing in the sense that people are looking for, but we do look to outsource to make us more efficient. How can we move forward and how can we make our folks more efficient? Thank you.
Great, okay. Now, I've taken these questions that I've been given and just kept them in the order that I've been given them in. So our next question, we're going to start with Dave Whitney, and the question is, why doesn't the city manager have to live here?
That's a very interesting question. I guess I go back to why don't police and fire and anybody have to live in the city? Living is a choice. If you're living next door or you're living into a neighborhood where you've got to make some tough decisions, it's not an easy thing to do if your neighbors are all sitting right there next to you. Same with police and fire. If you've got to make the tough decisions, it's awfully hard to do it when your friends and neighbors are right there. So that to me is the main reason it wouldn't be.
Hey, Joe.
So I would dovetail off of the conversation we just had about public works and services, and going back to the point where the sentiment used to be a majority of our employees on public works were also residents of public works. And there was a vested interest for progress, quality, and accountability. And I do believe that we, in order to establish a greater sense of accountability and vested interest and greater sense of pride in that which our employees have, that it would be a good idea to have our employees exist in our community as a resident of the community. Though again, this is the freedom that we have in terms of where we can live versus where we work. But this is something that I would not be opposed to discussing for future generations.
Thanks, Len.
As Dave said, that is an interesting question, and we do have freedom of choice. He does not live in this city, but we also, again, don't make our firefighters or policemen or public works individuals live in the city. All we can do, I believe, is strive to make this city such a great place that they want to work here, and they want to live here, and they want to be part of us in here. Thank you.
Go ahead, John, 1 minute.
Thank you. Let's expand this and not just restrict it to the city manager. Many years ago, the city council decided that it was better to not force and police and fire to try to live in the city. We had a better pool of individuals to select from. So the same goes true for the city manager. You have a better pool of individuals to select from when you have a city manager. The option is, sure, force them to stay here. I'm in the hotel business. When they've asked me to move to another city, they paid my expenses for the house. They paid for selling the old one and for buying the new one. I don't think the city wants to get into that, where we pay for somebody to move here. I think allowing us the opportunity to select from a better pool of candidates is what we need to stay with.
Okay, great. Now we're going to have our last question, and then we'll go into the closing statements. And question number 7 is going to be first answered by Joe, and it is, if elected mayor, can you name 3 goals you hope to accomplish during your term?
3 goals I'd like to accomplish are establishing more tech initiatives in the community that help us reduce the amount of resources that enable us to work smarter and not as hard, not having to put more manpower hours towards something. The next goal I would like to do is take a greater look at our spending, make sure that we subscribe to the practice of managing multiple bids that are valued and evaluated appropriately, and make sure that they exercise discretion in choosing the choice of vendors that we pay for our services.
Thank you. Len, you want to go next on this one?
Absolutely. 3 goals is, one is, we've talked about the business climate, which is getting better. The fact that we need to continue to make it easier, not only for businesses, but for you, the residents. If you want to come do an addition on your house, you want to do a deck, I've heard you. I heard your frustration. And if we want people to move to Rolling Meadows, it's not only the business climate, but making it easier for residents when they're here. Because my family is now the 4th generation with my grandkids here, and my daughter moved into my wife's home, which was an original Rolling Meadows home. The other thing is volunteers. I would like to see, as I was chairman of the Community Events Foundation, we worked on it very hard. I worked very closely with Dave Whitney, so we need to go with that. Also, the fact is tonight you see some young folks from Rolling Meadows High School and the other high schools. I have an initiative out there to see how we can get that generation involved in the city. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. I've got way more than 10, but I'll give you 3 or 4. I think we need to increase our economic development in the city and use that to create more non-tax revenue streams so that we can mitigate future property tax increases. I think we need to sell all vacant land that the city owns and use that money to pay down the bonds that we've taken out. I think we need to freeze increases on water, on stormwater, and on sewer for the next 4 years. And I think we need to have Rolling Meadows create a senior property tax freeze for all the seniors in the community. Those are just some. There's more on my website. Thank you.
Thank you. My first and top priority would be getting the city council to work as a team. And I think I've touched on that before. Without getting the council as a team, it would be difficult to get anything else done. The second one would be proactive economic development, going out and doing things with commercial realtors, selling the city, being very proactive in that area, along with efforts to do business retention. We've started doing that a little bit, but let's expand the business retention of it. And the final thing that I think is a long-term goal is let's reform pensions and get that more funded so that we can reduce the tax burden on residents. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're going to go to our closing statements, and the next person in the rotation is Len. So if you'd like to offer your 1 minute of closing comments.
First off, thank you for electing me mayor. It's been a tremendous 2 years. I really appreciate it. The things that I have stressed tonight is, one, in the future we need to have a referendum on bond limits. I did sponsor with Laura Majikis sponsored a referendum for you being able to vote on the fire stations, and that didn't work out. I also put forth in the past that there would be aldermen should only serve 2 terms, the same as the mayor. The fact is that, you know what, we as a city are moving forward. When Alderman Tim Beanboss left to go to another city, I had the opportunity to interview 6 individuals for that position. So I feel everybody we get there. In fact, one of those young ladies is here tonight. She's running for alderman in the 7th Ward. So I think that is our future, is reaching out to get as many people involved. So a lot of the issues that we have, will be the next generation of boots on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. I believe Rolling Meadows has come a long way in the last 10 years, and we have even better years ahead of us. The city has already adopted a technology program called the ERP system, which will allow the city to interact interdepartmentally and with residents and developers and first responders quicker than ever before. The future will be a time of economic growth, a time for the city council to work as a team to move the dream forward, a time to fill open land with new developments and repurpose empty office buildings like we did with Gallagher and Associates. New restaurants are knocking on our door and will generate new sources of non-tax revenue which will mitigate future property taxes. We will update our infrastructure, offer better protection to our residents without any additional taxes. We can freeze taxes in water, sewer, and stormwater. I believe in the vision of economic growth, and I will lead the charge for change.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. I'm excited about the opportunity to lead the city council and use my experience to stabilize it. My work on the comprehensive plan has given me insight into what the residents want and some ideas on how to accomplish that. I have plans for strengthening the economic development and the Chamber of Commerce. I will require transparency and will enforce communication with the residents. I have a track record of success and accomplishments in both my city work and my professional career. I've experienced volunteering with every department in the city. I work well with city staff. Above all, you will get honesty, integrity, and hard work from me. I will give respect and expect it in return. I truly believe I am the best candidate for this job, and I would welcome your vote in the next election. Thank you.
Okay, and now we're going to hear from Joe.
Well, as your candidate, I would look forward to renewing Rolling Meadows through technology initiatives, economic development, and greater regional collaboration. I'd also look to restoring the voice of the residents that I would tirelessly stand behind in terms of our decisions and opinions and needs to move forward. I would also look to address the imbalanced tax burden that we have through those initiatives and work collaboratively with other groups such as our Chamber of Commerce, with the Schaumburg Business Association, and make sure that we have greater accountability and visibility to that which we're deciding on doing as we move forward with any capital improvement projects.
Well, you guys have big decisions on April 4th. April 4th to May 2nd. April 2nd. The day after April Fool's Day, right?
Yes.
Anyway, you're great candidates. I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I'd like to thank the candidates for taking their time on a Sunday afternoon to share their views with you.